What's the strategy or the vision of bringing video onto the website from both BBC, television news, and other sources that you have?
Well, I think we've got a lot of content that's ready to go. We have a great resource of material that's already available, but we also have a lot of expertise in terms of news gathering and in terms of video production within the BBC. I mean, that's really kind of our raison d'etre, our broadcast output. So the philosophy, I guess, is to maximise that, but also to be aware that the online world is a very different medium from the TV world. And while some TV content or a lot of TV content can make the transition from one to the other, there is a good proportion of content which doesn't quite work online. And our role really has been to sort of steer a path between those two sides of the debate, if you like, and to create content or to think about and to commission and reversion or make our own content which actually works and really makes a difference online and has a resonance with the audience.
What sort of video works on a website which may not work on television, and how is content for the web different than content for the television news?
Well, I think the fundamental difference is that in terms of TV content, if you think of a TV program or any bit of TV output, what generally happens is that, for obvious reasons, is that stories tend to encapsulate the entire issue, if you like. So, for example, if someone says Gordon Brown appears at the Iraq inquiry, here is a BBC correspondent reporting on it, there are lots of elements you can put into that, but what the correspondent is essentially trying to do is tell that entire story in one go. And the only medium he or she has to do that in is pictures. So hence you get that, the formula, the highly successful and perfectly legitimate formula that attaches to TV, which is basically, use pictures to tell the story. So you get pieces of camera, you get graphics, you get, some library, you get arrivals, you get departures, and a commentary underneath. And that's how it works, because TV is quite a passive experience. You sit down, it's happened, the information goes in. The online world is obviously a much more interactive world, a much more active process of trying to find the information. And the great joy about it, we found, is that you have not only pictures, you have audio, you have text, you have graphics, you have still pictures, so you've got 5 tools to tell a story in. And a lot of our thinking over the past 2 or 3 years has been around being quite honest and quite sort of focused about what works in video, what bit of the story is most appropriate in video, which bit of the story is most appropriate in text or stills or audio or graphics, and using all those to create a multimedia experience, which means that you understand the story on a number of levels. You can go as deep into it as you want or not, if you like, and really to sort of be quite, I guess, sort of ruthless in terms of what actually works in video terms, and sort of not really, certainly in the context of a multimedia sort of text experience, not sort of forcing the issue or trying to create something which doesn't necessarily work, just being really succinct and specific about the video content or the video element of a story online.
So the video player is on the page.
Yeah.
What makes people press that play?
It's a good question, and the most obvious way to explain it, I mean, I think there are different, to be clear, I think there are different points at which, or different ways into video. So, for example, from an index page, is there a carousel of content? What do you expect from that carousel of content? Is there some embedded video on that index page? What is it? Are there just links to content from that index page? What are those? I think if there is a unifying theme around all those things, it's something along the lines of, what do you want to watch? It really is that sort of simple. Because if you look at a web page or an index page, for example, on the BBC News website, you can look at it and there can be 50, 60, 70, 100 links on there, depending on how far down the page you get. So that means there are 50, 60, 70, 100 things to look at or things to engage your attention with. What you can't do is then just say, here is some stuff, here is some news, please watch it, you might find it interesting. Because people just won't. They have to understand what they're going to get, what form it will be, probably how long it's going to be when they, fairly swiftly, what it's going to deliver out of it before they will engage with it. Because I still think it's still quite a big thing to go to a website, both in terms of, the technology, the time it takes, and also, so I guess even now, even the newness of it, it's still quite a big thing to actually go to a website and click on a bit of video and engage with it properly. If you get it right, and one of the things that the ideas or the messages we try to get to correspondents, to producers, to people within my team, with people outside the team, is if you can't tell that story or understand that story in the 5 to 8 words you have available to you on the promo slot, then it probably won't work at the end of the day. If, sometimes we go to meetings, we sit down and we try to thrash out an idea for a story, and 20 minutes later we're still trying to think of either the top line or how we would sell it. Actually we don't get to 20 minutes, after 5 or 10 minutes we think, actually this isn't working, is it? This is not going to happen for us because we can't imagine what this is, so how is the audience going to get there? But other things, you just go straight in there and you think, actually, what I want to see out of that is the following, and if you can be that succinct about it, then that's obviously, or often, a very good indicator that you're on the right lines in terms of the production.
Now, this is early on for you guys, and for much of the news media that's transforming their web pages with video. How do you measure success at this point, or what do you see success being down the road?
I think for us it's a twofold thing. There's the success in terms of the audience, that's in terms of reach and in terms of numbers, and we have been successful in terms of growing our audience. It's probably doubled over the last 2 to 3 years, and some of that is about the prominence that it has on the website now, some of that is about embedded media, and a lot of that is about the kind of content that we're producing. And we want to keep growing the audience, and we want to keep bringing it to new audiences too. For me also, being a public service broadcaster, there is also a thing for me about obviously the quality of the content that we produce, but also I guess our ability to tell difficult stories or unusual stories or explaining issues and stories to people which probably realistically aren't going to get huge hits. People aren't going to sort of click on them incessantly like they do with lots of other things that we know will work. But for me, there are 2 reasons for doing that. First of all, our duty or our job is to tell people about things that go on, or try and explain issues, or to tell difficult stories to people. And secondly, it's to create and develop the techniques, I think, that will really, that would help us bring those stories to a mass audience. Because if you can get that right, then you're some way towards taking a difficult or a complicated story and telling it in a way that a simple, straightforward visual story already resonates with an audience. I think that's, that's a way away, but I think we've made big strides in that.